Shalom. We're going to get right into this right here. This is the Salassie, sister. Not Salassie, but they spell it Salassie, which is kind of unique there, but shows what one's not paying attention. And there's a lot of things they're not really paying attention to. And this priest right here, I think he goes by the name of priest Zabak or Zabak. Right. And I heard, I think maybe, you hear different things from different camps, and that's not the point right here. So I'm not going to go into no chit chat, whether he come from another camp and another camp says this or that. But, when we saw this clip, or at least when we saw the thumbnail for it, and we was looking, through the Roku and stuff like that, and on the Android phones, and, looking for a little something to watch. And we saw another video of his. Occasionally we've watched his videos, don't have time to watch more of the videos. I would like to really, check out some of other ones in one's videos, like some of the item, some of y'all check out our videos and others. But, in the limited time, we make a decision, and we thought on this one. When we saw Salassie, I was like, whether they're going to clown or try to get, or try to confuse themselves on. Because instead of admitting that, hey, we don't really know, this is what we know, they want to act like, well, they know everything, and then they start making up stuff. And there's two particular points in this particular, there's a couple of points, but two main points. And for the Talmudim and the disciples, the Dek Amorit, we've been touching on the Messiah ben Yosef and the Messiah ben David. Now, many of the black Hebrew Israelites and the lost sheep, because they're still the lost sheep, even though they found out who they be because of the curses for disobedience, they're missing the boat on Salassie. And so in this particular vid, there is a sister, turns out she's actually an Ethiopian sister. They don't recognize that at first, but she's really strong on certain points. There's a couple places that she can really tighten up her argument, but still she did very good. I put her in the same, category as the IUIC. And it seems as though, ones are beginning in a sense to really step to them. And this is not something that we encourage us to go out there and step to them. You know what I mean? Especially if you haven't really been doing your homework and you don't know where ones are coming from, because if you watch enough videos of these different ones, at least some of them have a very, very limited amount of information. They know certain biblical things and they are putting out a good message. But on the issue concerning His Majesty, on the issue concerning Salassie, they are way out of their depth. And this is another example in this particular vid right here, which was posted, published September 14th, 2014. And you can see it right there, and it's called the Salassie sister clip. Right? It's about 20 minutes long. And I would say it's worth watching, brothers and sisters, especially sisters, because this sister, she asks a couple of questions, but how she defends, and even the Hebrew Israelites that are down with priest Zabak in this particular clip, they even recognize it. It's like, once you say something about, Salassie, like their father, they're gone, they're out of here. They're not even messing around, because there's nothing, you're speaking what you don't know. Already in this particular clip, they begin off speaking about Joseph. Right? They begin speaking about the immaculate, or the virgin birth. They dismiss the immaculate conception, but they talk about the virgin birth. I remember one of the, Dek Amorit, one of the disciples, I think it was Wyndham Yason. I think me and him were reasoning, and this particular issue came up, and I had really observed it from one particular camp, But then after the brother made that mention, I remember there was another camp that didn't go as much into detail on what their view of it was. They just kind of basically says, we don't really know anything about that. Here's what the Bible says, so forth and so on. But now when they begin to add on their interpretations, for example, the whole Solomon and Sheba, and how the sister in this clip, the Salassie sister, she really is I sister. She really is I sister. And we like to, reach out to the sister. She even, well, you got to check out the clip. I don't want to give away all of the clip, but I want to touch on a couple of particular points. And one of them, we might do it in this particular vid or upcoming, is why, Joseph is not the biological father of Jesus or of Yeshua, who they call, according to their pronunciation, Yahushai, right? According to the Bible, right? Why Joseph, right, is not the biological father, because they try to maintain a kind of a convoluted argument, taking certain accurate biblical verses from the Old Testament prophecy and seeking to apply it to Yeshua, to HaMoshiach, Bein Ha-Elohim. That's why he's called the Son of God, Bein Ha-Elohim. Now, they will say, well, we all are the sons of God. No, we are the sons of God, the sons of the power, the B'nai Ha-Elohim, because of the Moshiach. Apart from the Moshiach, you can't show me one place where they say, oh, the sons of God, pertaining to so-called fallen man or post-Adamic man. Because Adam is called, in Luke's gospel, he's called Bein Ha-Elohim, or he's called Son of God, right? According to the genealogy. Now, there's two particular genealogies, and they also seek to maintain that, well, all the genealogies are rated and accounted to the fathers as per inheritances. And this is true. Yet they miss over something very, very important concerning Joseph and Joseph's genealogy. And we're going to bring this, we're going to seek to bring this out. In fact, we might just bring this out right here, right now, because as we go forward in this particular clip, we want to actually maybe have a kind of a radio show, maybe we'll have a special radio show. And if the hosts, if they can, get even this clip or get the audio, and we can go through the audio, like play the audio and then pause it. And we can really get into a little bit more of the detail. We can use these as kind of like training films, right? This is like training day, brothers and sisters, because there are many of the Black Hebrews who really are Ethiopian Hebrews, but they prefer to call themselves Black Hebrew Israelites, or just Hebrew Israelites, who are missing the boat. Just as in the time of the Bein Ha-Elohim, in the time of Yeshua, he came to his own, and what? And his own received him not. All right. And this is the same thing that is going on right here. So we're going to get into this clip. We wanted to touch on, what we'll do. We're going to close out some of these, because we're just going to use that particular icon right there. Because we was looking for some icons of the Holy Family, and this is really the only proper, right? This is the only proper one that we can find, right? Right, according to Race and Grace. This is the only proper one that we can, that we were able to find within this particular time, to speak on why Joseph, right? Why Joseph is not the biological father of Yeshua, right? But because of this Salassie sister here, and how she's like a real lioness, right, on the point, right, that is being made. So let's just put this right here, because Salassie sister, right, really for them, they should call her Salassie daughter, right? This daughter of Salassie, this daughter of the king, that's found in this particular clip, the Salassie sister clip, she really defends, right? She really defends I and I Father. She defends I and I Abba, and she defends the truth. Though she didn't have, I guess she didn't come forward out there like they come out there to debate, or to preach and teach and, if necessary, debate, right? Others that come forward might ask certain questions. They might know something in the scripture, right? And then they kind of clown you a little bit. And they try to do this with the sister. They try to dismiss some of the, some of the main points that are factual concerning King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, right? Having a son, right? And we know him as Menelik, Eben Hakim, Baina Lechem, right? There's different, different names, but these names are related to the different people, since his father was the king of Jerusalem, who we know as King Solomon, right? Or Melech Shlomo Negus Solomon. Now, it's interesting here because here they are now speaking Esau's argument. They are speaking Esau's argument against their own. This is so very interesting. It's almost as though the children of the Pharisees and Sadducees and scribes and Sanhedrin had resurrected, right? And some of them, if not many of them, at least the ones that are popular, that pop on the YouTubes, are these very ones and ones here, But Salassie's, we're going to call her daughter, but here the clip is called Salassie sister. She really, really makes a very good point and a couple of good points, but we want to take it up and go into some of the more details, perhaps in a discipleship radio blog, or we'll speak to RabbiLOJSociety and try to put this up soon so he can pick up on this and can get this particular clip, the Salassie sister. Remember the spelling, Salassie, not the usual Sela, but Salassie, right? Salassie sister is the clip, and you'll find I think it'll pop right up on the top and everything of the browser, maybe until we put, our clip in rebutting, because we're going to go into detail, because there's a lot of points right there, and we don't want to do a sloppy job like they did, right? And this brother right here, or rather this Israelite priest Zabak here, I really think he's sincere. Of a lot of the different Israelites out there, we like Brother Shah, and there's a couple of ones out there because they're really sincere, even though they might not agree with what we are preaching and teaching concerning the King of Kings, Ethiopia, and this particular half of the story that COINTELPRO never wanted, the lost sheeple never wanted Jake to know these things. And COINTELPRO is more than happy with the so-called COINTELPRO-lights. And we're not trying to insinuate that they are consciously working for the system and risking themselves and putting themselves out there to remind the lost sheep of who they are as a people. But then they're going into certain areas, certain depths, where they don't have good or even proper intel. And this is what the Salassie sister kind of demonstrates and brings out, as in the IUIC, where they say they have a video up there, Haile Selassie is not Christ. There's a video out there, and we kind of touched on a couple of points there, and we had a couple more videos that we recorded in rebuttal, but we said to hold those. All right, we might start to release those, just to basically just to deal with all of that, rubbish and nonsense, because we thought okay, maybe it was just these ones and ones. Let's just teach the basics. But they're really getting bold, right, in their era, right, and even open in their era, not really having any real facts, but interpreting. They're talking about, well, others are twisting the scriptures when it says that Solomon gave the Queen of Sheba, of her desire, to the queen. Doesn't it say, right, in Genesis to the woman that her desire shall be to her husband? Doesn't it say that right there? I mean, just coming from the plain KJV, the plain King James Version, doesn't it say that? So when you look in Kings and it speaks about, and then he says the Queen of Sheba was doing homage. He says homage to King Solomon. No, that's foolish. That's what you get out of, Kings, chapter 9. I mean, that's what you get out of it for real, yo? That's not what the Queen of the South, the Queen of Sheba is doing. She's not giving homage to Solomon. She's giving homage to his God. See, you're not picking up on that, because y'all are so much in flesh that y'all, and first of all, they didn't even recognize, and this is so interesting, why Joseph could not be the biological father. I'm just going to talk on it just briefly right here. And then I'm going to get into the facts that, since they like to Bible thump, and point to the Bible, and that's very good. You know what I'm saying? But they don't have that real yeshiva discipline. That yeshiva discipline. They have a lot of discipline, and there's a lot of good points in our brothers, our fellows who are the Israelites. But it reminds me of what Paul said. When Paul spoke about there were certain kind of Israelites that he was down with until his eyes, right? Until his eyes were open, right? Until his eyes were open. And these Israelites remind me of that time. It's almost so mystical in the sense when you really see, first century, Judea, right? And all these different camps. There were all these different camps. There were all these different groups, and they had their masters of the law, their masters of the scripture. You understand? Who were really masterful in much that they knew. But then concerning Messiah, concerning the real, mysteries revealed of the kingdom that are based on the scriptures, they basically were found wanting, right? And as I said, Priest Zabak of many of them out there, checking out a couple of his videos here and there, he seems really sincere, right? And so we're not going to try to clown them per se. You understand? Because still, even though we might differ on this or that point, there is still the foundation. There's still the groundation, right? But sometimes when I begin to hear them, just say a lot of outright errors, right? And even blasphemies against the King of Kings, right? And against I people, even how they, at the end, treated the sister when she said, listen, first she said, my father is the creator. And they're like, like that was a petty thing. That didn't mean anything. Even someone to say that my father is the creator, you know what I'm saying? You have to say, all right, because that is a real acknowledgement. You see what I'm saying? Because the atheists, the aliens, the crazy people, the demoniacs can't say that. They can't say that their father is because this is what Yeshua, this is what he brought right to earth, that relationship, that reconciliation. But that didn't mean nothing. They only wanted to know about the fleshy. That's why when they look in chapter 9 of Kings, they say, well, nope, don't see no sex here. Nope, we don't see any sex here. So most likely, there was no sex there. As Exodus chapter 10, right? Chapter 10, First Kings. I think one of the guys in the video said Kings chapter 9. And you see, you listen to them, but you have to go and check out the script for yourself, right? Check out the script for yourself, because they read up to this verse right here, verse 13, and King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. Now, I did a couple of videos that I was holding, basically, and I think this is the right time, right? This is the right time coming up, addressing and giving, reinforcement and support to Salassie's sister, Right. So if you know who Salassie sister is, let her know about Rastafari Groundation, Rastafari Sabbatical. Hopefully she'll check out this video for herself, because we basically want to say, Exavier Yemesken, you understand, for her really, defending, like a lioness, I mean, she was like a lioness, but not in an unroyal, womanly way, as a virtuous woman, right? As a virtuous woman, in her, she kept her cool and everything. But when she recognized, listen, these so-called brothers are tone deaf. You know what I mean? Maybe they're brothers, but they must be brothers from another mother. Right? Because it matters what your mother is. You go check out that. That's the next vid that we did. So anyway, to keep this consistent, I think our video is probably going to be a couple of minutes longer than theirs, but we'll keep this in the 20 mark. And this is going to be just a brief rebut. There's some detail points. Stay tuned. More to come. Yah willing. Shalom.